Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling, not only fun Friday, but a happy New Year Eve. Woohoo! Who's ready to boot 2020 out the window and open the door for 2022? It's always exciting when a new year comes around. There's so much fun to be had. There's so much, a lot of people are sort of like, I am so ready to boot this year out there and open the door and step into the next year or let the next year in or whatever it is. I've been seeing this meme go around saying about how you close the door on the current year and you open the door to allow the new year out and to allow the current year out and the new year in. And somebody says, but with 2021, I'm opening all the windows and all the doors to make sure it goes. And I'm sort of like, I'm actually looking back over 2021, it has actually been a pretty cool year. Excuse me. So today's all about fun, and with it being New Year's Eve, a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun. They're going to be very relieved to see the back end of 2021. I kind of leave it with mixed feelings because there's some parts of it I didn't enjoy so much, and there are other parts, mostly other parts, where it was sort of like, yay! There was so much excitement that happened this year. I made the decision this year to put my butt in place for a year, to not go traveling around like I had been in 2020. I figured I'd done all the traveling in 2020. I wasn't going to deal with all of the hoopla with everybody getting out of town and going camping in some form, whether it was in an RV or a tent or converting their van or whatever. I wasn't going to get caught up in any of that. And I had a lot of plans that I wanted to get, that I wanted to work on, a lot of dreams and goals I wanted to work on. And my idea then was to, well, if I'm traveling around, I'm not going to have time to do anything. I need to settle in one place. Then an opportunity came up to work with Mailbox Power on their help chat. And I was sort of like, okay, that solidifies my decision to stay in one place for a while. Because I didn't want to have to be traveling and driving and because when I was traveling last year, a lot of it was sort of like, I'm going to go stay here for a couple of nights. I'm going to stay there for 3 nights or whatever. I can't do that if I'm working for somebody else. But at the opportunity presented itself, and it was the best decision I made to accept the job with Mailbox Power on the help chat. I have had so much fun since March. Is it March? Jeepers. Yeah, since March, I think it was. Yeah, it was March. Was it April? No, it was March. March. Yes, March. I was so glad I made that decision because it has allowed me, because it forced me to be in one place for a while, which was fine because that was my decision. The reason I wanted to stay in place was because I had a lot of goals I wanted to accomplish, and I didn't feel I could accomplish them if I was traveling around the United States, and plus having to fight for camp space and all that sort of stuff. And I was just sort of like, I'm just going to let it settle down this year and stay in place, get the foundations laid for everything, so that next year I can get back to traveling if I wanted to. And so when that opportunity came along, it was sort of like, okay, that kind of solidifies my thing that I have to stay in place. And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to buy a place where I could park Sparkles or maybe even give up Sparkles, but I wasn't really ready for that decision. And so I decided in the end, I'm going to lease a site for a year, take the pressure off the buying aspect of it, because there's a resort I would love to buy into. It's such a fun resort. It is. It felt like home the second we the second we drove through the gate. I felt like I'd come home. So I know that that's where I want to end up, but I was putting too much pressure on myself to make a decision to buy a place. And then it was like, okay, if I buy a park model, then what am I going to do with Sparkles? And they have this thing about RVs being a certain age before they're allowed in, and Sparkles is beyond that age. So it's sort of like, am I going to have to give up Sparkles? Because if I buy an RV site, will they even allow me to put Sparkles on the site or not? So there was a lot of decisions going around, and I was getting stressed out and everything else. And then when this opportunity came along, and then started thinking about it, thought, no, I really can't do this job if I'm traveling all the time. And with all the hoo-ha and everything going on, and people finally out of lockdown and finally able to travel and all of that, and the traveling within the United States because borders weren't open at the time, it sort of even more solidified my decision. I need to find somewhere to stay for a year. And when I was at this resort, I liked it so much, well, that I came back. When I stayed here the first time, I thought, I really like this place. I just don't like where my site is, but I really like this place. And then I found, well, the site I was on was sort of over in the back corner there, near an exit gate, which, girl by herself, not too happy about traveling, but not too happy about being near an exit by myself, especially with how the layout was and everything else. And so it was sort of like, okay. And then I had to leave to go to California, get all my stuff moved out of the lockers out there, and then come back. And I stayed at this resort for another 3 weeks in a different spot. And I thought, well, this spot isn't too bad. But I still feel I'm kind of a little isolated by myself here. And so then when I went and inquired and they approved me to move in for a year, they gave me the list of site numbers. And this one that I am now on was one of the site numbers. And I thought, and so Zeffie and I went for a very long walk one night. We walked past all of the sites and I took notes. I took photographs of each site. I was looking at the patio sections because some of them had very broken up patios. I'm like, I ain't dealing with that. One of the sites was actually the first one I was on when I was here. And I was like, yeah, no, crossing that one off. Not going there, was there, but the site I was on was not available for an annual rental, which I was sort of like, I kind of like this site. It faces the right way. East comes up on the passenger side and west is on the other side, and the south is at the back of the bus. Now I've got the south at the front of the bus because they had no north facing sites available. All of them were south facing sites. So I thought, okay, south facing sites, yeah, I guess we can deal with that. And so I knew at that point that the screens were going to be going on the windows. As soon as I was settled and everything, I was getting the screens on the windows, especially if I had a south-facing site and I was going to be here in the heat of summer. I wanted to cool down the RV as much as possible without relying too much on the AC unit. Well, yes, best laid plans of mice and men. But anyway, so picked this site because I liked the privacy it offered. My back end wasn't exposed to somebody else's backyard. I've got a about a 7 foot high fence behind me, which is perfect. It's perfect. I like the fact that if I decide to sit out on my patio, I don't have the neighbors in their backyard looking over my backyard. It was the privacy thing from that angle. You know, I could deal with people coming at me on two sides, from the front and from whoever was parked next to me. I could deal with that. Just couldn't deal with being in the eyes of everybody else. Because when you're walking along the streets and you look down the side of houses, you're actually looking onto patio areas of other sites. So I wouldn't be on display. They'd have to walk past my vehicle to see me. We don't have a lot of foot traffic down here. Hey, sweetie girl, you want to come up and say hi? Come, Zeffie, come. Good girl. Hi. Just looking for more tidbits. You gonna sit? Come here. You want to say Happy New Year to everybody? Come here. I know you don't like being on camera. Put your head up. Come here. Yeah, what's this? There you go. Going to say hi? Go hi. No, I just want to get down. She loves her scratches and her attention. And so I decided on this site and was able to get it, but I wasn't able to move into it till January 1st. And I said, but the site's empty. Can't we just move? No, it has to be January 1st. June 1st. June 1st. And I'm like, well, that's really weird, but okay, whatever. So June 1st was a hot day. I had called them to let them know that I was ready to move. The only thing I had left to do was to unplug the power. And I was leaving that to the last possible moment because I needed the AC running until we were able to move. And they says, okay, we've got somebody on their way right now. It took them 30 minutes and 3 phone calls before they finally showed up, by which stage I had unplugged the power. The engine was running. The sides were in. The feet were up. We were ready to roll. And of course, the only AC I had going at the time was the engine because my generator didn't work. Otherwise, I would have had the generator on and having the AC run that way. But the generator doesn't work. I still got to get somebody to come service that too. I've got to put that on the list. Yes, I have a few things to be serviced. I'm going to get all taken care of in the next couple of months. And so they finally arrived and brought me over to the site and got settled in and everything else. And I have been so happy at this site. Love this camp, love this resort. The people here are so beautiful and nice. My next door neighbors, I see him more than I see her because she goes and works every day. But he comes over like the first day, introduces himself, welcomes me to the neighborhood, asks me how long I'm here for. And that was the first day. I just literally plugged in and got everything connected and was ready to go back inside because it was stinking hot outside, and go back inside and cool off. But he came over, introduced himself, and said, if you need anything, I'm right next door. He explained that he's partially deaf. So he says, if our TV annoys you, just let us know. Well, I've got a carport. I've got part of my site, then a carport, then his wall, and his TV's on the other side. That I have never heard his TV. But I will tell you this, if I have this window here open, I can hear everything on this side of the house, including him going to the bathroom, which is more information than I want to know about my neighbor. And their laundry is also on this side as well, because I hear that almost going constantly during the day. But nice couple and everything else. We always stop and say hi and chat. And Zeffie loves Mike, and he's always got time for her. And he started off the year with 2 dogs and is now down to 1 because one unfortunately passed away. Now they have Holly left, and Holly's a sweet little what is she? She's a fluffy dog, one of those small fluffy dogs. It'll come to me eventually. But she tolerates Zeffie. If they're out walking, Zeffie will go over and say hi, and Holly will sniff and say hi, and then Holly just walks away, like I want nothing to do with her. And Zeffie's like, like, come back, I want to play. And Holly just looks over her shoulder at her and puts her nose up in the air and turns away. It's so funny. But yeah, so I'm very fortunate with that, with the neighbors I've got. He's told me all about the neighbors that live like across the street from me, just down the street from me, because he's one of those annual people who look after park models when people are away, because a lot of people come down just for the winter season, the snowbirds. And so he watches their houses while they're away. Like he goes in, he checks to make sure there's no leaking pipes, there's no leaking, well, actually, I don't think any of them have gas, but there's no leaking pipes. Everything's all okay. There's no rodents inside or anything like that. So he kind of keeps eyes on the places, just goes in, wanders around, checks everything, and then locks it all back up again. He even parks his golf cart in somebody's carport, his truck in somebody else's carport. He brings like whatever his truck or his golf cart over during the day while his wife's out, and then he moves it before she gets home so she can park in the carport. So yeah, it's interesting watching these people who have the responsibility of watching, people's places while they're away. But there's such nice people in here. They'll stop, they'll talk to you. I've met a couple who lived for 11 years in New Zealand and ran a bread and breakfast up in Thames. I met all sorts of people from all over the place. And then I met a guy whose wife was in hospital at the time. She died a couple of days later after I met him. He's got this beautiful dog, Chloe. And so we've been friends ever since, keeping in touch with each other and having the occasional play date at the dog park for Zoe and Zeffie to actually get off the leash and actually play together, rather than because Zeffie hates being on the leash when she wants to play with the dog, and she's always trying to bite her leash so she can run with the other dog. But it has been one of the best decisions I made being here. And a lot of stuff has happened. My genealogy business has started to take off. I've got a virtual assistant business that's taking off that I've got clients for as well, and that's a full plate. And then I've got my mailbox power stuff. So it's been a very full year. I'm very blessed. Next year's going to be even crazier than this year. It is, because I know it is, because I'm planning for it. So let's see. Yeah. So that's basically my year in a sum, is that oh, and I bought a car. I forgot. Got Bluebird, and Bluebird is our transportation around. And I just realized that registration expires tomorrow. It's got a January 1st expiration on it. So I've got to call up, and so I now have to go online and because I haven't received any notifications that the registration is due, which is really weird. So I'm going to have to go onto their site and have a look and get all of that stuff sent down so that I'm legal again in the cars. But anyway, so what are some of your favorite New Year Eve memories? I'm trying to think back, and I'm like, there was that one time that I did not go home for Christmas. It was my first Christmas away from home when I was in the Air Force, and I stayed down on base. And New Year's Eve, we had a big dance, big social gathering in the Airmen's Club. I was drinking water the entire night. In fact, my water glass was never left unattended because my water glass was always in the dishwasher. I would actually run behind the bar, grab a clean glass, get the water out of the tap, straight out of the tap, drink it, put it into the dishwasher rack to go back into the dishwasher, and go back out and dance. And I was doing that all night. Don't remember much of that evening. I do remember at one point we actually got closed down just after midnight. Then we found out that the sergeant's mess was still open, so we all went in and kind of raided the sergeant's mess, because usually as airmen we weren't allowed in the sergeant's mess, but New Year's Eve it was all open, and that got closed down at we got closed down at like 12:30, and then we went over there for like 30 minutes before they got closed down for the night. So that was my New Year's. That's one of the most memorable ones I've ever had. It was the first one away from home. It was really good. I had a couple of friends who were staying on base with me that year, and so we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun that New Year's Eve. The only time we left the dance floor was to go to the bathroom or have a drink. That was it. That was the only time we left the dance floor that entire night. Even when we got to the sergeant's mess, we were straight back out on the dance floor again. It was awesome. I woke up with aches and pains in areas I didn't even know I had muscles in. And I was in the Air Force and would work out often. But dancing took up a whole bunch of different sort of muscles that I had no clue that I had. But that was, when was that? That was either 84 or 85. It was either 1984 or 1985. I have a feeling it was 1985, because that first Christmas I was in the Air Force. Hang on, when did Granddad? It would have been 84. Christmas 84 was my first one away from home. 85, I flew up, managed to get up to Auckland for that, and it turned out to be my grandfather's last Christmas with us. And he died the following June. I think that was it. I'd have to go back and have a look, because I know the year that I stayed at the base, and then the following June, my maternal grandfather passed away. And then that Christmas, after he had passed away, I got up to Auckland, and my other grandfather turned out to be his last Christmas with the family. And we got this amazing all-family photograph, except my dad's not in the picture because he was taking the picture. None of us had cameras with time delays on back then, which would have been really good. And then because my grandfather then passed the following June. He passed a year and 6 days after my maternal grandfather. One died just before. In fact, my maternal grandfather passed on the 21st engagement anniversary of my parents, which was the 29th of May. See, they got married in 65, 64, so 21 years, so 85. So June of 85 is when Papa passed away. So, May 29th is when Papa of 85 is when Papa passed away, which was the 21st engagement anniversary of my parents. And that's how I found out that was their engagement anniversary, because my dad always wore the signet ring, never took it off. And my mum says, "Oh, pass." And we're on the way to my grandfather's funeral, and my mum says, "Pass me your ring for a second." And he's like, "Well, which one?" He says, "Just your signet ring. Give me your signet ring." And he's like, "Why?" She goes, "There's something about that date." And she looked on the inside of the ring, and apparently on the inside of the ring was engraved their engagement date, which was May 29th, 1964. And so she says, "Yes, he passed on the 21st anniversary." She said, "I thought that date was familiar." And I'm sort of like, "Okay." So he passed then. And then my paternal grandfather, in 85, so it would have been 84 would have been my first Christmas away from home. So 84 into 85 was the New Year's Eve we had. And then Christmas of 85 was the last, my dad's whole family was together for that day at my aunt and uncle's place. And in fact, in the house they are still in. And my cousin was 24 days old. And So we had the newest and the oldest family. The newest family members was in my grandfather's arms, and he was the oldest relative there in the room, and it was also his last Christmas. And he passed June the following year, which would have the day after Queen's birthday weekend. It was 6 days after my maternal grandfather had passed, after his 1 year anniversary of his passing. And so that, I think I was back in training in that year. Or maybe it was 86 was my first one. Huh. I never thought of that. When did I move up to Wellington? I gotta go back and have a look. But I'm pretty sure it was 84 was my first Christmas away, and that would have been my first New Year's away from home as well. So it was a really good, memorable. I still remember it was so much fun. I had not danced that long in a very long time, and we were just having a blast. The music would change, we would just change our dance moves, and we were off again. And like I said, the only time we left the dance floor was to go to the bathroom and to get something to drink. And for me to get something to drink was to run behind the bar, grab a clean glass, put some water in it, drink it down, and get back on the dance floor. Yes, I was very parched that year. There was a lot of drinking of water that night. But anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fun time, because I got a lot of work I got to finish off today so that I end the year with a clear desk. That is my goal. I do have a genealogy client I'm working with, and that's okay. But as far as everything else goes, I want to get it all off my desk today so that I can start, when I come back to the desk on Monday, everything will be clean and fresh, with the exception of my genealogy client. Everything else will be done, and I can start the new year with a clean slate. Got invoices I need to get out. I'm going to get out today as well. So like I said, I'm going to be starting the 3rd of January will be my first day back in the office, back at the desk. And I will be starting, although I do have to get on tomorrow morning onto the computer. Actually, no, we have the phone app. That's right. So tomorrow I start a 21-day manifestation challenge. So I'm looking forward to that. It's my first time doing one. And so I'm kind of curious to see how it goes and what happens. And I just want to see what happens. It's going to be awesome. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling day. Enjoy the last day of the year. Make sure you can complete and clear off your desk anything you can possibly get off your desk. So when you come back to the desk on Monday morning, everything is clean and fresh, and you are ready to rock the brand new year. So have a super fantastic, sparkling New Year's Eve day. I will catch you guys back here at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. That sounds good. Well, the time I aim for every day. So depending on how long she walks will depend on if I'm here on time or not. But anyway, have a super fantastic, sparkling day, and we'll catch you back here later on. Hei konera.